Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Marco. I am the host of the Unscripted with Marco, the podcast. And I'm going to do something a little bit different today. A lot of people don't know, for those of you who are new to the channel, I am a professor at a local seminary here in the city. And I teach a course on relational leadership. And in our course, in our class last night, one of my students suggested that I record some of this information and share it out. And that's what I'm going to attempt to do today. And I hope that it is useful to you. And what this session was really surrounding was about um, being able to cast vision, having this sort of theological framework or just a framework that, doesn't have to be theological. It could be used in, whatever business sector that you may be in. But it was about casting that vision and having that framework and helping them to see that vision casting is not some sort of motivational speech, but it is deep work. It is deep work that is self-rooted in what you are identifying as a need that needs to be met in your community. And before it becomes a strategic move, it is very much so stewardship. How much time are you developing yourself to hear whatever this is and, you know, dive into the planning process before you try to give it life and make it live somewhere else. So it's very much so a discerning process, and it needs to be utilized and stewarded as such. One of the books that we're reading is by Walter C. Wright. It's called Relational Leadership. It's really a biblical model for relational leadership. And in that book, he argues that leadership is grounded and influenced in character and in exercised relationships. You can't cast vision without having first relationship with the people in which you are casting vision to. Therefore, vision is not superimposed on people, but it is cultivated. In my life, I am also a trained community organizer, trained and certified community organizer. And one of the things that we practiced when we went into communities to do various things and various projects is that we held listening campaigns. Before we cast any vision, before we staged any protest or did anything, we actually listened to the people in the community. And what flows from deep listening is that people actually want to be a part of what's happening, not just being told what to do. So, what I utilize as a framework for this, even in nonprofits, regardless of what your belief system is the book of Nehemiah. It is Moses being refined in the wilderness. It is the clarification of communication that happens in Acts, and is actually some of the suffering that happens in it as well. So, part of the foundation of what I see as vision casting does not begin with a plan, is usually birthed out of some sort of grief. If you think about Nehemiah, the grief that he dealt with, he wept, he fasted, he prayed, and his vision came from a sort of dissatisfaction in what he was seeing. Vision that transforms, whether it be in ministry or in any other business sector, is normally rooted in some sort of lament, meaning that there is something that's paining you so much that you literally thought about, and you have tried to figure out how you are going to deal with the weight of what you're seeing. And then you get this sort of imaginary breakthrough where your imagination wakes up and you start to develop what you think will be the way out. It will be the vision of getting to this ideal place and where you want to be. And one thing that vision requires is clarification. One of the reasons why I am a huge person that writes, I love writing things down. Granted, I love technology, it has its place, but one of the things that I really love is actually putting a pen to paper. I like writing the vision and making it plain. That is a biblical verse. However, it's just actual everyday life and everyday practice for most people. I believe it's in the books. It's in the book. Seven Habits for Highly Effective People, is that they actually write things down. And vision must move from this sort of internal inspiration to an external articulation, and using that clarity as an act of service to the community, so the community can then understand what is actually happening, how we're going to do what, how we're going to move from point A to point Z, and make sure that everybody gets there together. And with that vision, moving from inspiration to articulation, we recognize that vision flourishes in community. In this community is where people will hear the vision and be able to pick up and run with it, because you've articulated it well, you've given it to them in a format that they can understand, and then everybody can then move collectively towards a shared goal. The issue that we run into is that many of the visions that are created are not created in a shared role. We create them in this silo and think that everybody else is just going to buy into what we're doing. And that's not the case, because they haven't had any input. You may be going into a new business or a new church. And granted, you're going to have your own vision, your own ideas of things that you want to see. But realistically, there's already a vision that's kind of already been established. And I would always suggest that you go in and try to understand the people first, understand where they are, understand where they have been and where they're trying to go, and then ride the wave into that so that you can find your footing and then build relationships and then find some way to integrate your vision into what they are already doing and what's already been processed. And then you can flow a lot smoother from there. So it flourishes in community, but it also points towards transformation. The aim is maturity, unity, then multiplication. We get it messed up because we try to multiply before there's unity. And then you get more division, and then you wonder, oh, I wonder what happened. Why did all of these things happen? Did you make sure that they were mature enough to receive the vision? Did you make sure they were in line, in unity with said vision? And then you'll be able to see the multiplication, because vision is not activity for activity's sake. Is actually moving towards a shared goal, towards a common likeness. If you're in the church, is moving towards a sort of Christ likeness in the people, so that you can then impact the community that you're around. But if you're moving in a silo and expecting people to just jump on board, that's not going to happen at all. So here are 4 practical steps for vision casting. Number 1, discern before you declare. Spend time in reflection. If you're in a church, spend time in prayer. In community organizing, we do these things called one-on-ones with key members and leaders. And we ask the question, where do you see yourself in all of the work? What burdens you about the community or about the role that you're in or what you're seeing around you? When you begin to discern those things, then you'll be able to formulate exactly not just what the vision is, but where you can actually go and get there. Problem is, we go, but we have no idea where we're going. Everybody's moving in all these different directions, but nobody's really communicated to the people exactly what's going to happen. Walter Wright, in the book that I mentioned earlier, emphasizes that relationships and leadership require attentiveness. Are you actually paying attention more to just what they say, but are you paying attention to what they do? Vision that is declared without prior listening lacks moral authority. And when leaders discern before declaring, they really embody the humility and the stewardship rather than just control. Because when you declare before you discern, it looks like you're trying to be more of a dictator instead of somebody that's willing to lead alongside people. And when people feel heard, they are more likely to carry the vision much farther than you could by yourself. So vision that's not downloaded properly and superimposed on people publicly, it will lead to your frustration and then their frustration with you. So number one, discern before you declare. Number two, articulate a compelling and concrete picture for the people. Can you clearly craft a vision statement that is clear, measurable, and also memorable? You don't want to make it so complex that people cannot understand what the heck you're talking about. They say it all the time. I love to hear elders say it. Put it in a cup that I can understand. Tell the story different ways. There are so many different mediums that we can communicate with people. You can do it newsletters, you can write a letter, you can record a reel, you can record a long form video, much like what this is. You can do it in so many different ways. You could tell a story that illustrates the current existence of where you are and the future realities of where you're trying to go. And while you're doing that, make sure that you connect the vision to the existing assets that you already have. A lot of times we go into situations and positions thinking that we don't have enough. When in fact, I don't care if you're spiritual or not, I'm going to say this the way that it is. God has already given you in your hands exactly what you need to make it. You just need to be able to utilize the things and the people that are around you and understand where you are. So there are assets in people. Those people have gifts. And then there is also some institutional history of places and spaces that you need to understand before you go into it. Habakkuk, in the book of Habakkuk in the Bible, he instructs the leaders to make the vision plain because clarity reduces confusion and it actually builds confidence, not just in the people, but it builds confidence in the people's view of you as a leader, because then you can articulate what you're trying to accomplish. Wright notes in his book that influence grows where trust and clarity intersect. If you leave this sort of ambiguous nature about vision, then it creates a drift, and then concrete visions with no direction leads to more frustration and ultimately division in whatever institution you may be in. So, compelling vision should be able to answer the questions from the people. It should be able to answer what will be different, who will be impacted, and how will we know we're moving forward. What measurable goals are you achieving? What are you trying to obtain that is measurable? Because people will get excited once they actually see that they're going somewhere. And theologically, clarity really reflects God's revolutionary nature. God does not do anything out of order. When God speaks, he reveals and he also invites a response. So practically, all of this really aligns with your vision and who you are, what you're trying to do, the leadership pipelines that you need to create. And if people cannot repeat the vision, they cannot reproduce it. They need to be able to know where they're going, how they're going to get there, and then they need to be able to reproduce it so that they can tell others. So that's articulating and compelling a concrete picture. Number three, you have to align structures with the dream. Evaluate everything that you have for the alignment with the vision that you're creating. Because developing leadership pipelines will help your future direction. Because so often what happens is that the ministry dies or the organization dies because one person hoarded all of the information and you don't know exactly where you're going after that. One of the things that should be mandatory for all leaders, I don't care what C-suite level you think you're at or what C-suite level you are at, it should be mandatory that you are training your successor to come behind you so that it will not fall when you decide that you want to move on. That will be of great benefit, not just to you, but to people that you are serving. And then dreaming without all of the structures and alignment that you really need will do nothing but produce your frustration. It's like asking a drummer to be an organist. Yes, the drummer is a musician, but they don't know how to play the organ. How can you steward the relationships that you have so that people will be in alignment with what you're trying to do? And then you create the structural alignment around that so that it will not produce frustration. Relational leadership framework emphasizes integrity, and we must say and we must match how we lead, because vision without structural change is nothing but semantics. You can talk a good game, but what structures are actually in place? Theologically, this reflects the incarnation, the word becoming flesh. Vision must become embodied in systems and practices. From a community organizing perspective, power flows through structure. If structure resists the dream, then the dream will stall. So vision casting is not completing a calendar, it's not doing any of that. It's making sure that all of the systems are in place to reflect where you are trying to go. In curriculum design, what teachers often do is that they will know what they want a student to learn. At the end of this term, I want to make sure this student is proficient in this. And then they begin to work their way backwards on how to teach to make sure that the end goal is actually met when they reach the end. Number 4, sustain the vision through repetition and formation. You have to repeatedly share the vision. If you're a pastor, share it in sermons, in meetings, in trainings. If you're a nonprofit leader, share it in your staff meetings. If you are a C-suite individual, you share it down to the levels so that everybody will get the same information and it will be disseminated across the organization. Because where vision falls short is that it becomes a one-time announcement rather than something that is shaping the narrative of the culture that you're trying to create. Leadership is long obedience in relational faithfulness, meaning that if people forget, they will drift. They will get fatigued, and then they will not pay attention to exactly what should be happening around you. One of the biggest narratives that I can use is when Moses went up to Mount Sinai. Everybody knew the plan. The plan was to build momentum and then go to the promised land. That was the plan. Moses made a stop at Mount Sinai, and get this, the people got mad at him for spending too much time with God. Pastor, I hope that you take that. They got mad at him for spending too much time with God. But when he came down from the mountain, he reminded them of what the goal was. The goal was to remind them that you are the children of Israel, which is their identity. And then he reminded them of their destination, the promised land. He reminded them of identity. He reminded them of destination. Paul does this even in his missional letters. So we have to make sure that we remember that repetition is what forms culture. Don't just say it once and expect people to run with it. Say it repeatedly. Say it in every meeting. Say it every time you do something. Whatever the event is that you're planning, make sure that you remind them of the culture that you're building, because when you celebrate that culture and you celebrate those measurable goals that you've achieved, then that will build momentum. And formation ensures sustainability. Because when you have the structures and then you have the momentum, the culture will take care of itself. Because you have to be careful with culture. You have to make sure to repeat it, because if you do not, it will eat you alive. Here are some of the common pitfalls that leaders make, and here are some of the ways to avoid them. Lone visionary syndrome. Leaders develop a vision in isolation and expect automatic buy-in. That is not how this works. Avoid prioritizing your way versus a communal way. Prioritize relational groundwork and shared discernment in the leadership process, and then you will have a much different outcome on the back end. So avoid the lone visionary syndrome. Number 2, understand that vision inflation without capacity will make you insane. Dreaming beyond your current leadership capacity will cause you to think that either you're doing something wrong or that they're doing something wrong, when in fact, they have never actually been developed to do the thing that you're asking them to do. Just because you ask somebody to do something does not mean that they know how to do it. Sometimes you have to develop them. So pair big vision with big dreams and big leadership pipelines and development. Number 3, don't confuse activity with vision. Don't do activities just for the sake of looking busy. Adding programs without strategic direction is a waste of time and usually a waste of money. Ask yourself before you put another thing on your calendar, does this align with who I am, and does this align with the future of where we are trying to go? Just because you are busy does not mean that you are faithful. Vision clarifies priority. Without it, ministry becomes maintenance. I hope that helps you. Number 4, emotional inspiration without structural follow through is a huge pit that a lot of people fall into. Here is what happens. We do a great job at the launch. We go do a great job at telling everybody everything that's about to happen, but we have no structural follow through. What good is a powerful launch when you have weak implementation? Instead, attach timelines. Have accountability measures for your leaders and for yourself. Review the rhythms that are happening, because normally what happens is the culture will tell you what it needs. You don't have to go out and create it by yourself in a silo. The culture will tell you what you need. Thinking back to the book of Nehemiah, Nehemiah didn't inspire people, but he organized them. He organized laborers and watchmen. Leadership includes operational discipline. You have to make sure that you are sharing the accurate information so that you can go on and do what you need to do and trust that everybody else is going to do what they need to do. So, what bridges theology and strategy is relational power, because vision grows through relationships. Asset-based thinking, because vision builds on strength, not scarcity. Shared vision is a very important one, because discernment invites participation. Are you discerning not just the times, but the people and the culture that you're in? Leadership pipelines create sustainable dreams, but it requires leaders to be developed. You should be easily developing somebody 10 to 15 years your junior. Because what happens if something happens to you and you are not able to do all of the things that you are doing? You need somebody younger to pick up the ball and run with it. If you're the only one holding the dream and you have not shared it with anybody around you, then it's really not a dream and it's not a vision. It's something in your head, this obscure thing that you want to do that is not really beneficial for anybody. So, in all, dreaming big in ministry is not about expansion for its own sake, but it's about aligning human imagination with divine intention. So I want to charge you with this. Pray deeply. Listen relationally. Speak clearly. Build structurally, and repeat faithfully. And understand that vision casting is not hype. It is holy stewardship. I hope that something has been said to help you along the way. If you could, please like, share, and subscribe. And I hope that this blesses you the way that it has blessed so many others. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other. Peace.